Hello friends, welcome to ProTalent IAS Academy. In this editorial discussion part, we are going to talk about few important issues. One of them is Maldives. I'm sure you have heard the news that Maldives president declared emergency for 15 days. So we are going to talk about what is this emergency crisis, what India should do, and the more important part is whether India should intervene in this scenario or not. So let's understand first and foremost about the news item. So President Abdullah Yamin has declared a state of emergency. Okay, this is primarily because Supreme Court of this Maldives, you can say, ordered the release of political prisoners. The release of political prisoners could have a great step towards ensuring free and fair election in the country, which is going to happen in the recent time. But Mr. Yamin has not only refused to abide by the order of the Supreme Court, but also gone ahead and arrested Supreme Court judges and certain members of opposition parties. Earlier, Mohammad Nasheed, जो आपको यहाँ पे दिख रहे हैं, ठीक है, he was a Maldives former president and is currently an opposition leader in exile. So he has urged, so he is in exile, so he's not living in Maldives, he's living outside. So he has urged India to come to the rescue of this democracy in Maldives. Okay, so what is government of India's response? Let's understand that. Government of India in a press release says that it is disturbed by the action of Yamin government, number one. Also, the statements from Washington and London are a little harsh. Only China has supported Yamin by urging all relevant parties in Maldives to resolve differences through dialogue and negotiation. Remember one very important part. When we talk about our neighbors and when our neighbors are disturbed, we cannot remain stable. So for our stability, the support of, you can say, neighbor is very important. Number one. Number two, there is a possibility of radicalizing Islam in Maldives. And therefore, country like India, which is disturbed by radicalizing of Islam, has to ensure that the neighbors are in a democratic manner and they are peacefully existing. So that is very critical. So the countries like USA and UK, they talked about that this is not fair. India said we are disturbed but we have not provided certain harsh statements so far. But China has issued a travel advisory warning its citizens against visiting Maldives, just like India, US and other countries have done. So what is a big question India is having? Should we intervene to repair this situation in Maldives, or should it be ready to use military force if required to let Yamin know the New Delhi's red line? So that means, should we, you can say, use military force to bring democracy in Maldives? And more importantly, should we intervene or not? So what is the background for India's intervention? India has indeed intervened militarily in Maldives once earlier. It was a time in 1988, which was called Operation Cactus. Now at that point in time, the situation was very different. Okay, what was the situation? The intervention by India's paratroopers, that's a paramilitary force, was at the invitation of the president at that time. He was a dictator of Maldives, Maumoon Abdul Gayoom. He is now a part of democratic opposition. He was arrested on Monday night and he was facing coup attempt by Sri Lankan mercenaries working in Maldives. So in a current situation, demand for Indian intervention is by the opposition forces, not by the existing government. So that makes a tricky scenario. Ever since Yamin took power in 2013, India-Maldives relations have deteriorated. So Yamin also came to India. He visited President Modi, but still we don't have a friendly relationship with them. Apart from unabashedly crushing democratic forces, Yamin has courted Beijing and handed out big infrastructure project to China. he has openly challenged New Delhi by allowing Chinese naval ships to dock in Malé. Malé is their capital. Yamin's relation with Saudi Arabia and growing trends with radicalization in Maldives are growing concern for India. So for India, the challenges are: one, growing radicalization of Islam in Maldives; number two, strong relationship happening with Saudi Arabia, and again giving a lot of business relationship to China. Remember, in Malé, Indian company, you can say, developed their airport, and there was a big problem took place with that airport as well. So India and Maldives are not having very friendly relationship in last few years. So India has tried to maintain more than working relationship with Yamin's Maldives. New Delhi helped Maldives overcome water crisis in 2014, where India sent a lot of water via ship. But after, you can say, 1st February order of Maldivian Supreme Court, India clearly chose to support democratic forces in Indian Ocean country. So why India should intervene? So if Yamin stays out without much alteration in Maldives' internal balance of power, he will only embolden to act further against Indian interests. And the argument is that China is already bigger power in Indian Ocean, despite India's growing circle of liberal democratic friends, but still China is reasonably powerful. So what is the way ahead? The way ahead is India's first priority is to ensure safety of Indians who are living in Maldives as well as who are tourists in the, you can say, Maldives. New Delhi's intervention should be surgical. That is, one which makes Yamin government capitulate without harming the people of Maldives. So the idea should be the Maldives government should take back step. Possibly the, you can say, blunt instrument which we used against Nepalese government. Okay, so what did we do in Nepal in 15-16? We put our economic blockade. We did not allow items from India to move to Nepal. Okay, so therefore it created certain trouble. It also generated backlash against India in Nepal. That could be one choice. Okay, so the choice of instrument should also be such that it doesn't make India a long-term participant in partisan domestic affair of Maldives. So we do not become a long, we can say, associated member to that problem. So the lessons of disastrous intervention in Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka के अंदर हमने intervention किया था, that became disaster. ठीक है, Indian peacekeeping forces was supporting Sri Lankan government fighting against LTTE, and due to which we actually lost one of our big leader, like you can say Rajiv Gandhi. So we need to be very careful about choosing the method. The New Delhi should remember that if one petty dictator in the region is allowed to got scot-free harming India's interest, there will be more of them in future. So therefore India should take strong action, but it should be calculative in nature. It should not be the kind of action we took against Sri Lanka, but there may be a choice like what we did with Nepal could be a kind of option. Okay, so this is how the Maldives scenario is taking place. We thank you very much for watching this.